Hello, everybody. How's it going? Uh, I thought I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna risk it to play that one. So, uh, hopefully that was a good intro into today's video. I need to get that in there. So I hope everybody is doing well. Uh, I'm in the Black Lodge. I'm in the red room with my white chair, white IKEA office chair. Hello, everybody. Obviously, I wasn't able to come on yesterday. I was at a chromatic show in Brooklyn. It was a lot of fun. Um, Maybe I'll play a clip. I'm like already, you know, copyright strike or demonetized. I don't have it monetized anyway, so it's not a big deal. Um, Hello, everybody. Hello. Let's see who's here. Wilton, hello. Lisa, hello. Eva Katrina, hello. Lisa. Cameron's here. Wilton's here. Um, Hello, everybody. I have been manufactured for a purpose. For the image for this video, I felt like you could easily go with what year is it, because it's already been 2 years, and it's been 2 years since I have known a lot of you guys, which is insane, for one. But I thought I thought I'd use Laura saying, "Do you recognize me?" Because a lot has changed since we all met when the return premiered yesterday 2 years ago. Wild times, wild times. I'm in a completely different house now than when that happened. Uh, Relationships have come and gone since that's happened. Possibly work, like a lot has happened in 2 years. Um, and we're still coming back to this, even though there's no really new news about Twin Peaks, and there's sort of just little fun things here and there, little conversations. There's nothing really brand new to the world of Twin Peaks. Um, Unfortunately, the most recent thing that happened was the passing of Peggy Lipton, our Norma. Um, our double R queen passed away, and David Lynch talked about Peggy at the Festival Disruption. I think it was last week, um, and it was basically, he did his thing. He closed his eyes and he tried to picture Peggy, and he said basically Norma was Peggy. Norma is how he saw Peggy. Very strong, savvy, but tender and emotional, compassionate, and passionate lady. And he's gonna miss her very much, and I'm sure we all will. I've been seeing a lot of tributes to Peggy Lipton over the past couple days. Um, and it's touching. It's for something that hadn't been on in 25 years and only came back for 18 hours. It still has such an impact for all of us. And a lot of people knew her from other stuff, but my introduction to Peggy was Twin Peaks, and it's still pretty tender. And she seemed like she I mean she in my opinion, she was still very young. So it's a shame what happened to Peggy. Uh, but we persevere, and we wish them the best hopes, and we send them our prayers and our love, and to her family and friends and whatnot. But yeah, it's been 2 years, guys, and I a couple days ago I was rewatching my I don't fault me for this, but some of my favorite episodes of Part 18 were the first four. Those were the most impactful for me, and I remember staying up late that night to watch the first 2 hours on Showtime, and then the next two via on demand or the website. And I think I watched them like back to back. I watched the first four, and then I watched them again that same like morning or afternoon. And I still watch those. I still, like, whenever I want to watch The Return, I go back to those and I watch those, and it sets the mood, and it puts you in the right mood, puts you in the right headspace when you want to be in the Twin Peaks world, and in the new Twin Peaks world anyway. I've been slowly, I took a break for a while watching the shows, and I'm still kind of not totally back in with my rewatch, but I've been watching episodes here and there, just because I feel like I've been needing Twin Peaks, which is a bizarre feeling. I felt like I was missing it a lot, which 2017 was great. We had it. It was new. It was fresh. We were talking about it a lot. It felt like a good friend to have. It had you excited to just be living and thinking, and it kind of glossed the world in a different way to me anyway. And I know a lot of you feel the same way. It made the world seem a little bit brighter in a lot of ways. And fun. It was just straight up fun. Having been able to talk to you guys, and I made a new friend in Cameron and all the people he brought onto his show, and other people. I've met people out in the wild that love Twin Peaks. Somebody on my very block. I was walking down the block the other day, and I saw the Owl Cave symbol on somebody's car. I was like, "There's a Twin Peaks fan on my block," and obviously, I'm not going to know everybody that likes Twin Peaks, but it kind of just stood out to me. I was like, what? On my block? Like, literally a couple houses down from me, I'm guessing. There's a big Twin Peaks fan, and I have no idea who they are. And it was just like this thing. It was just like a weird, they're around. Our Twin Peaks people are just, they're lurking in the shadows. That makes it sound creepier than it is. I mean that in the best possible way. Episode 3 had me rolling. Special Agent Dale Cooper. You mean like all the purple scenes? There was some funny stuff. The way that Cooper, I laughed out loud when Cooper just sort of splat in the the purple oasis thing. I don't know what to call it still. Obnoxious and Anonymous says those first 4 episodes are very strong. I still think they're some of the best. They were so well done. They right out of the gate on fire. Jason is here. He says, how's Joey? I think I'm okay. Feeling nostalgic for 2 years ago, which is a weird thing. 402 says Twin Peaks was great when it was on, but once it was over, I didn't love it as much. Episode 8 and the final scene are my favorite parts of the season. I'm still not, I made the videos and I was making videos with Cameron. We were just talking, I felt like I was talking about it all the time and I burnt myself out to it. But now I'm going back and I do miss it a lot. And it was just like this, I don't know. Like it was a religion. I think Cameron has said this before. It's almost like a religion. And I felt kind of, in the weeds. Without thinking about it and being in that sort of headspace of the David Lynch, Mark Frost universe, because it does gloss things in a different way. I like to think, at least for me, it does. Episode 8 was great, and I mean it's a long journey, and there's a lot you have to wade through. And I think there are good moments in between. After episode 4 to 8, there's plenty of good moments. There's a lot of, you have to get to those moments, if you know what I mean. It's not all, rainbows and butterflies, but I think overall I'm still very satisfied with the way it came out. I don't feel, we all wanted it to feel a little bit like original Twin Peaks without being too much like the original, but then it kind of went in a completely different direction, which is fine. It's not 1991 anymore, 1990. It was never going to be the original Twin Peaks. Some people hate it with all their being, which I don't understand. I think it's still great, and I'm going to watch it probably countless times before the end of my life, I imagine. If I live a long, healthy life, who knows? But, there's things that could have happened that we wanted to happen that didn't, things that could have been done better. But, it's been 2 years. What's going to happen now? Who knows if they're going to make a 4? I'm not placing any bets. But David Lynch might be cooking something up. You never know with him. And I'm sure Mark Frost wouldn't be opposed to doing more. So that'd be awesome if it ever happens. I'm not holding my breath, but it's a possibility. 402 says, I don't think the Audrey scenes were as horrible as most people did. I thought they were pretty good, in fact. I know Sherilyn Fenn wasn't happy with them at first, and then seems to have come around to it as well. And I'm sure when you're filming and you're only given a very small portion of the script and you don't really know what the hell is going on, it can be frustrating. I know I would be. Even working with David Lynch, who I'm sure she trusts to an extent, it's still frustrating because there was this big role, one of your most iconic, if not the most iconic role of your career, and you're brought back to that role and you're kind of not told very much. So I could see where it could be unnerving for an actor. And I'm sure the new people that came in the return weren't as, they didn't feel as emotional because they were coming to it fresh. They were just excited to be in something Twin Peaks because it's going to be a very rare thing that nobody thought would ever happen. And it did, and they were in it, and now they're part of this, history, this television history, this great television history. So I hope all those people do well in their future projects. Eva Katrina says, I was almost levitating during those first 4 episodes, but the best part was making these connections and going over it every week over the summer. Yeah. I mean, it was a magical summer. I can't deny that. I really can't. It was fun. Again, I moved during that summer. A lot happened during that summer. But Twin Peaks kind of just made it all a little magical. So I have to give it that, at least. It transformed that summer of 2017 for me. We're all going to remember that summer of 2017 when we're older. Made a lot of people feel like a kid again in some ways, or it just made things seem a little bit lighter. I think anyway. 402 says Lynch should give the directing and writing job to someone else if he isn't interested in doing a season 4. I'm sure Frost could do a good job with it by himself. I'm all for him sort of giving Frost a good majority of the reins. I still don't think Lynch is done with Twin Peaks himself. There's something in me that doesn't think he is. It is this sandbox for him. And if he ever wanted to make a movie or a film, he could do it in this universe. Anything could be in the Twin Peaks universe at this point. And I kind of hate that everything has a universe now. But it is a good way to give yourself room to play. And I understand that. And it makes writing these kind of things a little bit easier, and you kind of are able to throw out the rule book and do things that you normally might not. It kind of gives you some liberty, or a lot of liberty in a sense. Lisa says, talk about the anniversary has me missing Twin Peaks even more. There's a 10-hour loop of the Twin Peaks theme music on YouTube. I listened to it for 2 hours while cleaning my place today. Wow. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It is my alarm clock in the morning, and it's a great way to wake up. The theme song is my alarm. You just hear those few, I believe, guitar notes. I know it sounds like a bass, but I think they were recorded with a guitar, though. If I'm wrong, someone please correct me. Jason said, transformative is a good description to me. Yeah, I agree with that. Again, the music is another huge thing that came out of the return that, is going to be with me forever. I went to watch the Chromatics last night, who are in part 4, right? Part 4, am I correct? So that they're one of my favorite band now, and Johnny Jewel is the composer for the Chromatics and a lot of other things, and the imagery last night. If you guys don't mind me talking about the Chromatic show last night, because it was very, there was a lot of Twin Peaks symbolism. They had like all these screens everywhere. There was some of the images was them in the Black Lodge. They in the video they all have the Owl Cave ring on. There's images of that. But when they came on to do their encore, they played this like short clip, and it sounded like the whole building was going to take off into space. It was just like these high-powered, speakers with these crazy synth notes, and I thought like we were going to go into outer space. And they had this just this video on, and it was basically a combination of all this imagery, and there's like a lot of very Lynch-esque imagery. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he worked on some of it with them. A lot of clouds and smoke, and there was a lot of Twin Peaks imagery. There was stuff from the show. There was stuff of the band on the set. There was Laura Palmer imagery. There was just a lot. So the Chromatics are kind of in it as well. They feel the Twin Peaks love. A lot of the people at the concert last night were Twin Peaks fans. And there were people that knew the Chromatics before Twin Peaks, and they were saying, that how it's great that they were on the show, and now they have all this recognition that they deserved otherwise. So I think a lot of the bands that were on that show are probably doing very well right now, and people are keeping an ear to them because they were a part of the return, and it's something a lot of people love and is a part of their lives. And it's 2 years later, and people are like, when they played Shadow, people went nuts. Like, people went absolutely gaga. So it's nice to be in a room with other Twin Peaks people that are still just as excited for it, even 2 years later. I'm sure there's still people discovering the show itself now, and they didn't have to wait. I only had to wait a short time. I only discovered it in like 2012 or 13. I had tried to watch it previously, but I didn't get into it until about 2013. So I'm still fairly new to it, and I had to wait 4 years for the return. So there's people that are getting into it now that can just jump in on it, and I wonder how that experience is for them. I'm very curious. 402 said, I heard the original screenplay for season 3 had very little to do with Twin Peaks or many of the characters from Twin Peaks. I wonder if Showtime had anything to do with the changes. That's interesting. If it had little to do with Twin Peaks, I don't know if I feel like David Lynch would have wanted to be in Twin Peaks to an extent. But again, maybe that was one of the things they settled with him. Maybe that was one of the things he didn't really try to do in the beginning, and that was like one of the problems they were having, was he didn't want to do anything in actual Twin Peaks. Maybe he didn't have any fresh ideas for Twin Peaks, but I could see how Mark Frost would want to do more in Twin Peaks. It is such an open book thing. I mean, you only had 2 seasons and a movie of the original show, and it's a very small amount, comparatively to a lot of other shows. So the endless possibility in Twin Peaks, and especially filling a 25-year gap. But I did like the way they did approach it. It is a town that is sort of stuck in time, but not so far removed that they're not affected by the current state of the United States and the world. So they're trying to keep what's special about them, but it's they're struggling. We saw a little bit of that. There's a drug problem. There was a drug problem in the 90s, but now there's still drug problems, and there's still relationships. It's like it's the same in a lot of ways. But there is I think a lot more of a cynicism in Twin Peaks: The Return, which if you follow Mark Frost on Twitter, he's very political, and he brings up a lot of points, and we saw what his work in the history, the books. So they're feeling, and I think Lynch might be more cynical than Frost. He's also cynical, but he understands that things can change, and people can adapt, and if they're willing to. I think we saw both sides of that coin, and we just saw like a sickness in Twin Peaks and the world, uh, well, the United States at least, but we also saw that there's still a lot of people dedicated to do good and to sort of thwart evil. Still, there are still good guys out there, which I thought was nice, because you could have totally made this Twin Peaks world like evil and gross and had been totally taken it from a pessimistic sort of defeatist point of view, but that's not the state of things. There is a yin and yang to the world. And David Lynch is into TM, so there's a lot of those elements. There's a very large amount of TM philosophy and imagery in The Return too. So it wasn't going to be totally like in the dark. Lisa says, I really did want more of the town and characters of Twin Peaks in season 3. Yeah. It's hard. It's 2 years later. There's not really anything we could do, unless there's more. But I think I'm glad we saw who we did see. I'm glad we got to have Catherine Coulson for a lot of it. I think this was also part of the problem. A lot of the people were older. I mean, we got Lucy and Andy, which was great. They had great scenes. We had Hawk, who was a big part of The Return, I would argue. One of the leads, I would argue as well, of The Return, which is great because Hawk is one of my, I could say most of the characters are my favorite, but I always loved Hawk, and I'm glad he got a lot of screen time in The Return. I think that's something even I haven't really discussed much, was how instrumental Hawk was throughout the whole thing. He kind of, the end kind of seemed rushed, and he wasn't really a part of it, and things didn't pan out as the way you thought in the beginning of the 18 hours. I thought Hawk would have had more of a standing. He would have had more to do with Cooper coming back and stuff. But I'm glad that we got a lot of Hawk, because that was I didn't expect that, and that was fantastic. 402 says, I thought the reason Lynch almost backed out of the project too, Joey. I heard that only the first episode was supposed to be about Twin Peaks and its characters. That's interesting. I kind of forgot that was a thing. It's a little. I'm glad somebody pushed him back on that, to be honest. If that's the case, I'm glad he got pushed back on that. I wonder if it was Frost that made it. He was like, we have to do Twin Peaks. We have to do something in Twin Peaks. But this is what frustrates me as someone who also creates. It's like, why are you going to completely alienate the place where it started? I'm not saying I'm on the same level as David Lynch. I'm in a completely different ballpark, I think. But I'd want to sort of do justice to these characters. But again, I'm in a different field of, creativity and filmmaking philosophy, I guess. If I had a show like Twin Peaks, I'd want to go back. I'd want to go and revisit those characters. But again, I'm different. We're all different. We have different perspectives. David Lynch probably thought of Twin Peaks more of as a mood. While the characters are great, he probably thought of it as a sort of a philosophy. I'm guessing, in a way. Twin Peaks is like a state of mind, in a sense, which I also get. I also get that, but you gotta kind of hit the nail on the head sometimes. You can't just be smacking it all over the place. 402 says the rest would be about Dougie and the other story. Yes, a lot of Dougie. Special Agent Dale Cooper says a lot of the plot seems concrete if you make the connections. The ending was displayed on Hawk's map. Dialogue relating to another scene, etc. Yeah, there was a lot of it wasn't done like haphazardly. There was a lot of well thought out, well mapped ideas in Return, and a lot of new mysteries, of course. We still have the Tremons in Laura's house in this alternate reality or new reality or whatever the hell it is. different alternate future or same future. Linear. It depends what your idea of time is, what theory of time you subscribe to. 402 says, I definitely missed the music in season 3. Great music. Fantastic music. Lisa says she misses it too. 402 says, I think in the beginning Lynch was only interested in getting money to do something sort of like he did with Mulholland Drive, so he might have figured that putting TP as the draw, he could do a film. I mean, he kind of got to do that. And that, I also think that it is, but he did create it. He did make this sandbox, like I mentioned earlier. Now he can do things under the guise of Twin Peaks, which I think he did. And he got to do like a new movie with Kyle MacLachlan, which they hadn't done in a long time. And he was able to sort of bring back Cooper at the end, but he did Ronnie Rocket in like a lot of ways. Which was a movie that he never had a chance to do. But he kind of funneled Ronnie Rocket like character and story into Twin Peaks: The Return. And I know some people feel like that's a little bit cheating. That's kind of, but again, I like the way it was opened up to allow all these different kinds of stories under the same mood, under the same element that is Twin Peaks. And it doesn't totally do disservice to the original series. Some people think it does. I don't think so. It is a different thing, but it is still in the same sort of element of Twin Peaks. We just got an updated version of it. And if we ever get more, I'm gonna be curious to see what that is. I don't know how long everybody's going to. We just lost Peggy, for Christ's sake. So I don't know. I don't even want to think like that. I don't want to think who's gonna be left to do a new Twin Peaks, because I feel like that's not a great way to ponder it. But I'd be fine with a new Lynch movie. I'd be fine if Lynch and Frost did a movie together. Do a sort of get those two to do something new. But I also don't know if Lynch is into doing TV anymore at this point. That's why he kind of sort of framed it as a 18-hour movie. That's what works best, and he wanted to get his hands dirty like he would with one of his movies, which was difficult for Showtime because everything is done very strictly these days with TV shows. Everything is it's almost like a factory rollout of new TV shows. Everything is scheduled very precisely so that money is spent strategically and nothing is left on the table. Which I get, but then you don't get stuff like Twin Peaks, and you don't get creators like David Lynch all the time. So there has to be concessions. You have to realize, not to blow up David Lynch too much, but that's the reason we all love him. He is very unique. He's one of a kind. You don't get people like that much that you jive with. And you sort of love on a fundamental level. So I could see how it's, he's still very old school and, he's still very relevant. So Showtime, I don't know if they knew how to deal with that. When The Return first came to the table. 402 says, maybe I'll like the show more in a few years. There were so many great scenes, but lots of filler also. I think some people still feel a little cheated. Some people are, a little sad they didn't get more of what they loved about the original series. And I get that. I think, I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I do think there was filler, but, it's like you're getting stuff from David Lynch. And we hadn't gotten something from him in a long time. So, even the filler was, you could either laugh at it or be mad at it. Like the sweeping of the floor. I thought it was, it was a lot. It was a very interesting way to build tension, which, you don't see in a lot of movies. A lot of it would be like crazy, like violins and, a close, a slow zoom in or something like that. But he had somebody sweeping a broom, and you're like, what the hell is gonna happen? Why is he still sweeping? Why isn't it cut away? Like, it was just a very David Lynch way to build tension, and I love it for that. And it's very funny too, because it's sort of playing a little bit of a prank on us, but it's also a great way to build tension. I appreciate it. Special Agent Dale Cooper says, "Are you in the Black Lodge, the Red Room, or the waiting room?" I think this is the waiting room. I believe the image is of the waiting room, but I'm not gonna touch it. But I believe it was the waiting room. 402 says Lynch isn't getting any younger. He might be done with film now. Too bad, but I understand that at his age it might be too much of a chore to do another film. Yeah, I can imagine. You know, again, I was on the Joker. I did extra work for the Joker a couple months ago, and doing that kind of thing it was chaos. Like, it was absolute chaos, and I'm sure, you know, Lynch he seems to still have the spunk. He still has some of the energy, but I think he'd rather just spend his days sort of being, I don't want to say bohemian, but just like painting and dreaming and, you know, stuff like that, which I wish I could do. I wish I could just spend my days making art and living the art life, which, you know, maybe someday I can, but he earned it. He made his money. He's made his living, and he can do it. And I can't fault him for that. I really can't, because if I was in his shoes, I might want to do the same exact thing and just, you know, spend my days drinking coffee, smoking, and working on whatever art I want to, and not have to answer to anybody. So I completely understand why he wouldn't want to do it. He doesn't have to. It would be, you know, I think he did Twin Peaks. He did a lot for himself, but I think a lot of it was for his fans, and maybe to work with Mark again and to work with Kyle again. I think it was a lot about just working with those people that he, you know, I'm sure he missed and he hadn't seen in a long time. So I think a lot of it was just that. There was just enough to do it then, because he was able to work with these faces again. Again, if he didn't want to work in Twin Peaks again, though, that's, I don't know. That frames it a little bit differently in my head, but maybe he at least wanted to work with Mark again, or just partner up with him and get something going. Obnoxious and Anonymous says, making films is a young person's medium for the most part. Yeah, I think you have to have the energy for it. You have to have the enthusiasm for it, because I feel like if you don't, then it's not gonna work out well. Especially for somebody like Lynch, who, you know, took a lot of time to make Eraserhead. And that was, you know, it's one of his best movies, but he worked on it forever. It feels like. So expecting him to sort of just, you know, I guess, work on a season 4 immediately after 3 probably wasn't going to happen. It might need another 2 or 3 years if it ever does happen, but it might not. Who knows? He might just want to work on his paintings and, you know, just enjoy daily life like the rest of us. 402 says, I wish there was a scene that was as powerful as Maddie's murder in season 3. I think Maddie's murder is Lynch's best single scene from everything he has done. Wow. Interesting. I don't know. I mean, I actually watched that episode the other day. I do think it is one of the best, and, you know, it has this vibe that hasn't been, you know, hasn't been rivaled yet. But I'm trying to think of there's just a lot of scenes I love from Lynch. I don't know if I could name a best scene. That one definitely sticks with you, though. Just the imagery of the dancing and, like, the gloves and Leland with the white hair. Just it is very effective, and it is very memorable. So I totally get where you're coming from. But yeah, been 2 years, which is insane. I don't know where we're gonna be in the next 2 years. I don't. We might see something new, like sort of a film. He's been putting out a lot of other stuff. I still haven't finished his bio, which I have somewhere, behind the curtain. And he's come out with his art books. There was a new one that came out recently, and the nudes photo book came out recently, and he has a lot of merch coming out, which I don't know how much he has to do with it. But I also think there's art shows in Paris that he has every now and then. There's like little David Lynch events, so he's doing stuff. He's just not doing film. I think he's very much still loving his day-to-day and painting and stuff like that, and Skyping with people, as he did with the Festival of Disruption the other day. But Obnoxious and Anonymous says, I would say the last 20 minutes of that episode is amazing. Totally. Again, that's another episode that I watch all the time, just to watch it. It's a spectacle. But we'll see what happens in 2 years. Maybe we'll get something. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll have a 4-year anniversary of the return video. What this year was the 30th for Twin Peaks itself. Came out in 89, I believe. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was the 30th. Cameron says Queen of Hearts will hopefully be done. Yeah, so we'll have that hopefully. Adamo's here. Joey, did you not find it very peculiar that Sarah Palmer was openly forthright with an innocent bystander cashier in a grocery store, and yet closed up with the reputable Officer Hawk? Hawk was shunned by her and what she knew and what was going on in her kitchen or home. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's still. Now I think we kind of know what happened to that kid who dropped off her groceries. He probably got devoured, or at least some part of him ripped out. Huck should have had the foresight to investigate, or the sense to investigate. But I think Hawk also knows better that there are things beyond his sort of control. Either forces beyond his control or ability to fight. At a moment, you're dealing with, some kind of being, some kind of complete being of evil that is holed up inside Sarah. Obnoxious Anonymous says, grocery store Sarah is the real Sarah asking for help. Sarah at the door was controlled by Judy. Jaude. Oh, Judy. All right, so I'm going to have a little poll for those of you that are in here. I'm just curious, and please let me know in the comments what you think. Who thinks Laura defeated Judy at the end? Do you think she defeated Judy, or do you think it was just sort of left open? Because I've seen a lot of stuff since people saying they think that was Laura confronting and defeating Judy. Now I don't totally know if I agree, but it seems a lot of people seem to think that was her destroying Judy with the whole exploding thing. Danielle Coleman says agree. O&A, Sarah in the store was having a moment of clarity, or was her real self? Yeah. It's sort of like what happened with Leland. Sometimes Bob would sort of drop out or go sort of into like what I like to call cold mode, where he's just sort of leeching or being parasitic and he's not really being active. And then when he's being are you still there? He looks in the mirror and Bob pops up. So, yeah, I think they do take a back seat a lot of the time. Especially, I mean, we saw that, I think, a lot with not Agent Cooper, Mr. C. A lot of it, I think, was the doppelganger, and he sort of used Bob as almost like an engine to carry out these atrocities. But I think a lot of it was just Shadow Cooper being a jerk, being evil. So, I think there is something. There's a dynamic where the entity can take a back seat. Special Agent Dale Cooper says the fireman wants to put out the fire. Modern day electricity. The electricity went out. Laura won, in my opinion. O&A says you are correct, Joey. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, black fire. The fire needs to go out. I could totally see that. The fireman. So if you black out if you put out the fire, then the fire's out. No fire, walk with me. It's just walk with me. There's a lot of fire symbolism. Bolton says she had a flash and asked for help. As soon as she arrived home, she came back to her usual self. Then Hawk came. She dismissed him. I mean, yeah, Hawk had no, he would have had a warrant. He would have needed a warrant to search the house. As far as I know. I don't know what laws are like in Washington or Twin Peaks. Kendi said, I think Laura screaming wasn't defeating Judy. She was remembering her original life in Twin Peaks. I think, again, it's like the sort of the veil of trauma, and that's the through line in all Twin Peaks is the power of trauma and overcoming trauma and coping and dealing with it. So I think with Sarah, to go back to Sarah, I think the fact that she stayed in that house made her sick. It was like all this trauma in one, all this celestial, strange trauma in this single area, and it just destroyed her and made her susceptible to Judy. Unless she had Judy in her at the whole time, which if the frog moth was any indication, she probably did. Which set up a whole different precedent. But we've talked about that in the past. What that would mean if Sarah was infected by Judy and was right next to Bob the whole time. But that's we can have the discussion again another day. Forward 2 says no, she didn't defeat Judy. I think the final scene lets us know that along with lots of other things, that is why I love the scene. There's a lot going on there, but the scene is so simple. Absolutely, it is very simple, and you sort of have a Richard or Cooper that is sort of very much not who we're used to seeing. He's very he doesn't have his wits about him at all. He seems very lost and confused and frazzled. And what year is it? Like, what? And I think there was a passing of the baton a little bit because Carrie Page seems to be this strange. I mean, she also has a very sordid life, I think, post being rescued by Cooper as Laura. And I've said this in a previous video, but I would love to see a diary from Carrie Page. Maybe she sort of still goes with that diary from her Laura Palmer days. Maybe she makes a new diary. She just liked keeping a diary. So, one second. Let me see the comments. Hopefully these comments are working. The chat. All right. Danielle says, just my opinion, don't think the scream defeated Judy. Think that was her own recognition freak out and jacked up the timeline again, possibly. I think, you know what? Yeah, there's a lot that could have happened. The timeline, obviously, I think Cooper screwed up. Or even Cooper was displaced. He thought he had this sort of agency over time and space and was able to do something, and maybe he was at the I think he was at the mercy of Philip Jeffries and what he had learned and what he wanted. I don't know. He's also, it's slippery in here, he says. So I don't think Philip Jeffries even had his wits about him either. I don't know if he's in full control either. So everything could be screwed up. It could just be royally screwed up, from like beginning to end. But we did get to see Jack Nance go fishing, so that was cool. Danielle said it's Freddie's glove that defeated Bob, who's less powerful than Judy. Would have been more powerful in the glove situation to defeat Judy. This is true. Special Agent Dale Cooper says on Hawk's map, a totem pole is screaming at black peaks surrounded by black fire. Oh, really? I totally don't see. I don't remember anything either. So that's interesting. Danielle says I forgot about the map. I need to do a rewatch. Yeah, me too. I honestly don't remember that. Huh. I'd love to look at that map again. I need to see if I could find an image of that map. Let's see if I could find it now. Let's just do this in real time. Hawks map, Twin Peaks: The Return. Maybe somebody else has put an image up. Some people have put up some good maps. Let's see if I can get this up. Who is this from? Oh, this is from Welcome to Twin Peaks. Okay. Let me see if I can get this up on the screen real quick. Just give me a sec. Let's see. All right. I think I figured it out. Wrong one. Just give me a second, guys. Sorry. I want to get this up for you guys. If it's gonna be gigantic though. Let me shrink it first. Some on-the-fly production. Transform. There we go. Boom. Here's the map. This is from Welcome to Twin Peaks, I believe. So we see the black fire and the black teepee on the right. Men spitting fire. Cornfields. Black corn. Horse fires modern day electricity. You don't ever want to know, all the way at the top left. Yeah, so there's a good shot of the map. And you can find that online. But yes, thank you for joining us, Danielle. Have a good night. There's a black wolf behind the totem pole. Let's look at that one more time. Black wolf behind the totem pole. I don't know if it's on. Is it on this image? I don't know if I see it here. There's an owl. Black wolf behind the totem pole. All right. Well, I think we're gonna call it there. Thank you everybody for watching. We're almost at an hour. This has been pretty solid if you ask me. I'm glad to see all these familiar faces in here and some new ones. Yeah, I need to get the full map. Maybe we'll do a dissection of the map one of these days. After I rewatch some more, which I'm planning on doing. But thank you guys for watching. This has been fun. This kind of brought me back a little bit to the days where we talked about Twin Peaks every day. So, again, thank you guys for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. And, Hope some of you could get back to watching Twin Peaks and feel the want to get back to watch it and feel that sort of love for it again. If you're feeling, in the weeds a little bit. Richard says, I mean, really, who cares at the end of the day? We got 18 hours of unadulterated Lynch, which is probably more than we had in 18 years. At least got an ending that didn't suck like Game of Thrones. That's fair. I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. That's, yeah. Anyway, on that note, we'll leave it. We had a great ending. If that is the true and final ending, it was beautiful. It was fantastic. Thank you all for watching today, and I shall see you next time. See you later.